Hello, I'm Linda Reid, Superintendent of South Euclid-Lyndhurst School District, and welcome to another production of AV TV Productions. I'm here today with a very special guest, Mr. Mike Murphy, the district's athletic director. As you can see, we're not in the studio today. We're sitting on the 20-yard line of the newly renovated Korb Field. I invited Mr. Murphy to come speak with me today because he's been directly involved with the renovation of Korb Field. So Mike, welcome to AV TV Productions.
Thank you.
Before we get started and talk about the project, can you tell us a little bit about your background? I know you've been here in South Euclid-Lyndhurst for a long time. Can you tell us what your roles were before you became athletic director?
I came here from Elyria West, where I was a teacher. I came over here as a math teacher at Memorial Junior High in 1994. Taught there for 5 years at Memorial, then became the assistant principal over at Greenview Upper Elementary School, and then moved up here to the high school as assistant principal before becoming the AD here at Brush.
So how long have you been athletic director at Brush High School?
This will be my 4th year.
Tell us a little bit about, not many people know what an athletic director does, and it is a very critical role in the lives of young people here in South Euclid-Lyndhurst. So can you tell us a little bit about your responsibilities as athletic director?
The main responsibilities to the athletes, obviously, making sure they have the right coaches in place, and then everything from scheduling officials to scheduling games, to making sure we're in the right conference, to looking at their grades to make sure the grades are appropriate, and make sure they're involved in everything and all the proper paperwork's filed with the state.
Well, I know that you and I have worked together this last year, both of us being former athletes and coaches as well. What are some of the priorities that we have for our student athletes here at Brush High School?
Number one is that they're a student first. They have to have their grades in place and ready to go before they can be involved in any activities, whether it's the band, a club, or a sport. So the number one is that you're a student athlete. So the grades obviously come first.
You know, when you talk about coaching, I've coached near 20 years as well, and I think it's really important to have good coaches that are leaders, because with the right combination of good coaching and student athletes, you got some really good winning teams. When you're looking for a new coach, head coach, what are some of the attributes that you're looking for?
We want to make sure that they're dedicated first to Brush High School and the South Euclid-Lyndhurst schools, and that they can also put into place leadership for those students. We want characteristics coming out, lifelong lessons for the athletes. It's not all about winning and losing. It's learning how to win, but also learning how to lose. But it's also the characteristics that athletes will learn for lifelong lessons.
You know, so before we get into the project, one last question. Being an athletic director, I know it's some long hours and it's dealing with a lot of different type of stakeholders. What do you like best about being an athletic director?
I love seeing the kids learn. When the students learn, the athletes learn those lifelong lessons, the characteristics, the leadership that comes through. It's very rewarding to be able to see that through with all the athletes.
So you talk about your role as working with young athletes, with being the athletic director. You know, we're sitting here today on the 20-yard line of the newly renovated Korb Field, and that was one of your big responsibilities this year, to see this project through. Can you tell us a little bit about the scope of the work of getting the renovation done?
The Korb renovation project was planned all along from 11 years ago. This field's been used 11 years before we just knew that we had to replace it. It actually was due to be replaced after 8 years. We made it stretch to 11 years. At this point, it became a problem with safety and the amount of use that it gets. Actually, more than half the student body uses Korb Field at some time. Everybody from the athletic teams, but we also have phys ed classes out here when it's nice. We also have the band out here, baseball team, softball team, football, soccer, and so on. So it really gets a lot of usage. And at this point, it became a safety factor and it needed to be replaced. And I'm glad that we planned ahead and had the money set aside just for this project.
When you talk about safety factors, I mean, what are some of the safety concerns that some of the coaches felt with the students by not stretching this project even longer than 11 years?
Some of the problems, the turf was actually ripping up in a lot of different places with the seams. So when a student athlete would cut on a yard line or something, and it comes up and your foot slides out from underneath you, you start worrying about torn ligaments and knees. You also, how hard and compact it's become. There's some specific testing that's done on fields, and we were approaching that mark where it was becoming too hard to actually use.
You know, it's been a really exciting first year for me here as superintendent, and we had a successful levy on the ballot in November, and that was, we really want to continue to thank the community for their support. But had the levy not passed, was this going to be a project that would have continued to move forward?
Yes, this was not contingent on the levy at all. This was planned, like I said, 11 years ago when they put the field in. We knew that it would have to be replaced at some point. They set aside a special fund to start saving in that. And actually after 8 years, they knew that it was going to have to be done. We stretched it to 11, but this was planned all along, and that savings was there. So whether the levy passed or failed, this was still going to happen.
When, as you stated, the funds that were set aside had actually nothing to do with the levy campaign.
Correct.
And that, so it was funds that were collected. Do we rent the field to other organizations that helped us to save that money as well?
Yeah, we rent it out to private schools, we rent it out to public schools, other organizations. We host OHSAA tournaments here, the soccer tournaments. So all those are rental, and that's income, and all that income goes right into that special fund for the past 11 years.
Well, one of the other parts of the renovation project was a new scoreboard. I'm not sure if you can see it today, but it is still being installed. So the new scoreboard was a part of the project, and if so, why? What was the previous scoreboard? Was it operational, and what was the need for us to have a new scoreboard?
The scoreboard was not operational. Not the whole thing was operational at this point. Actually, last fall we lost the scoreboard 3 different times during events here at Brush. That it went down. We had no scoreboard for a while, so it was not operational at this point. We could not count on it, so it did need replaced. The funding for that also came from that savings that we did. There was some extra there, but also through advertising and sponsorships.
Well, you mentioned, we're always looking for different ways and different ways to collect revenue for that. So what are some of when you looked at the new scoreboard and some of the different options that there are for a scoreboard, what made us select the scoreboard that we have and that made it unique where it can help us in generating more revenue for our district?
Yeah, we looked at several different scoreboards, from an all-video scoreboard to one like that we had, which is just a basic scoreboard with maybe a small video board above it, to no video board. And in looking at all the options and talking to different advertising companies and advertisers, when we looked at the cost effectiveness, we went with the all-video board because of the income that it could bring into us. We actually had an advertising company guarantee us $10,000 a year. Just based on having an all-video board, because they knew that they could sell the advertising for that, which obviously helps pay for that scoreboard.
So the plan is that we collect enough advertisement money to pay for the scoreboard in the life of the scoreboard, as well as generate some revenue on top of that as well.
Right. We're actually in a positive situation now where the scoreboard's actually being paid for, and the revenue now that we're actively seeking at this point is putting us on the plus side to use for other things around the stadium.
Outstanding. Can't wait to see it up and running very soon. So let's talk about the turf. I mean, how did we know, what was the process that we went through to make sure that we were getting a competitive price on this renovation project of Korb Field?
The turf was quite a process that we went through, from looking at all the top turf companies to visiting a lot of other schools' turf. We decided to go ahead and go through the state. We belong to a state consortium here in South Euclid-Lyndhurst Schools, and that state consortium has a bidding process for turf where they set out a national bid to all the national artificial turf companies, and they selected 3 different companies that can meet that bid and come up with the lowest price, and then we went ahead and selected from those 3 companies that were approved for the lowest price.
So what was the timeline of the project? And we're looking here, it looks pretty complete, but can you tell us, did it go as planned?
Yes, it did go as planned. The turf was scheduled to be started in May, right after the track season, and it was completed in mid-June, so actually completed early. They really brought in their A crew to install and get it done fairly quickly. So that is complete. The turf is down and complete. The scoreboard, as you can see, is still being installed now, but it is up. They're just installing the electric at this point. So hopefully by tomorrow it'll be up and running. And then we just have some signs that we have to redo.
So when is opening night for the Brush Arcs?
Opening night is September 6th, is our first home football game. In mid-August, we have our first boys soccer and girls soccer games here.
Looking forward to that as well.
Absolutely.
So as we talk about in closing, last year you mentioned how often our students use the field Do we look to expand the usage of our field now that it's been renovated? Will it open the door for more places to be interested to renting it from us?
Yeah, we'll continue to seek other people to come rent it. We hope that the Ohio High School Athletic Association will continue to bring state tournaments here for rental of our facilities, and start planning that 10 to 15 years down the road that we have to replace it, that we can start building that fund back up and offering it to other community organizations here in South Euclid-Lyndhurst.
Well, when we bring in outside organizations, I mean, we actually host our own concessions, and so does the South Euclid-Lyndhurst School District benefit from us bringing in outside organizations?
Yeah, those outside organizations not only pay rent, but they also utilize our concessions, and our PTA and our school obviously benefit from all the concessions that come in here.
Well, thank you. I'm very excited. Can't wait for the opening game. I want to thank all of you for watching. I'm Linda Reid, Superintendent of South Euclid-Lyndhurst School District. I want to thank Mike Murphy for all of his work on the renovation project here at Korb Field. And again, thank you for watching.